So in this segment, we're going to be discussing Sir James Dyson claiming Rishi Sunak's science superpower pledge is hot air. So tech firm Dyson employs 3,500 people in the UK, but its chief executive, Sir James Dyson, has warned against a, quote, crippling shortage, end quote, of qualified engineers. And so I tried to look into why we might be facing these issues in the UK, and it's not too hard to figure it out. So the issue is twofold, really. The UK is struggling to train enough engineers domestically. Normally, you would go to university to become an engineer, depending on what type of engineer a person is trying to become. But that's the normal route. According to UCAS, who most universities use for their points-based system for grades, they say, quote, to get on an engineering related degree, you will usually require a minimum of 2 A levels, with 3 A levels and A/B grades required for most popular courses, ellipses, with the universities and colleges most commonly asking for A/B/B. Maths A level is normally essential, with many universities requiring or preferring a second A level in physics. As an alternative to physics, other universities may accept subjects linked to science, computing, maths, or design, end quote. So you're talking pretty high grades at ABB. It's quite high. So you're talking pretty high grades, but also specific A levels. You would then have to convince these kids with these A levels to take engineering courses. So I tried to crunch the numbers a bit here, and I did my best around this. So in 2022, around 95,000 students took A-level maths, with just under half of them getting A star to A. If these numbers are right, then you have a pool of under 50,000. That's without factoring in the amount of these students who have done A-level science as well as maths, so I haven't put that in because I don't really have that. The point is, the pool is pretty small. You can argue it goes back to GCSE levels, because that would determine if you're eligible to do A-levels and your interest in doing A-level maths, which is comically difficult. It's a very small pool and gets smaller as you go, so you can see why the UK has such a shortage of engineers. With class sizes set to get bigger, this problem will only get worse as we go, and students requiring more one-to-one support to get the higher grades won't be able to achieve it unless they go to a private school, which not many people have access to in this country. Billionaire businessman Dyson has issued fresh criticism of the Prime Minister, claiming his pledge to turn the UK into a science and technology superpower is, quote, it is a, quote, mere political slogan, end quote. Ministers talk hubristically, I don't even know that's a word, of Britain becoming a, quote, science and technology superpower, end quote, but their woeful policies diminish this to mere political slogan, he said. It's hard to know specifically what Dyson is talking about. Is he talking about the UK not being in the Horizon programme, or just a lack of education and lack of encouragement to take up science-based learning? The few things I do know is that the UK is moving in the wrong direction of being a science superpower. That's one thing for certain. He says, quote, in the UK, Dyson now faces rocketing corporation tax, wiping out any tax credits for research and development, ellipses, and a crippling shortage of qualified engineers, end quote. So regarding the tax credits, that's something I didn't know about that they got rid of. It's something some other countries do offer. I think Ireland do offer tax credits, or some sort of way you can kind of offset your R&D against the amount of corporation tax you pay. It can be, these things can be exploited by certain forest standing companies who may claim tax write-offs on R&D when there was no real R&D. But that's that's by the by here, and this is just a really odd move from the UK to do this. Sunak's ambition of turning the UK into a science superpower post-Brexit has been central to his premiership. A key part of this was the creation of a new department for science, innovation and technology. Bro can create all the departments he wants to, but there's no one to fill them. That's the problem. You can create the UK version of DARPA if you want, but if you haven't got, some of the best science people in the world and best engineers and all that kind of stuff, it doesn't really mean anything. It's like when Donald Trump created like the space military or something like that. If you got no space dons to go up there, what's the point? Martians are going to beat us. A government spokesperson said the UK is open for business as a quote, innovation nation, end quote. And they go on to say, quote, we boast the biggest tech sector in Europe, reaching a combined market value of 1 trillion in 2022. We have the lowest corporation tax rate in the G7, and we have world-leading strength in R&D, backed by our 20 billion R&D target and introduction of policies like full expensing, end quote, they said. And I don't know if we are the biggest in Europe right now. I guess for tech we are, because we have a lot of these kind of companies that are worth ridiculous amounts of money in the kind of tech field. But what I do know is that science goes beyond just technology. We are losing talent to the US. And other European countries, and if that keeps up, then the universities will struggle to attract students. Because we are losing top talent here. They're already struggling to attract talented, professors and things like that. This is a downward slope we're on. During Jeremy Hunt's autumn budget, which I had the absolute dismay of watching and nearly put me to sleep about 4 different occasions, the UK science and technology sector survived a much feared spending cut, but those in the field warn that the government will need to do more to realise the UK's potential as a, quote, science superpower, end quote. And imagine all of this government boasting about the tech and science sector for Sky to turn around and say that these sectors just about survived the spending cuts. Like, how do you expect to even compete with other major powers when the sectors are in fear of cuts? The UK was a major player in these sectors, but I've never seen anyone fumble with Britain's key strengths as much as the Tories have, especially under this Brexit lot. Kind of the Johnson era Tories, I guess. Cameron and the gang were bad, but this lot are, in the words of the Arbiter, quote, an abomination, end quote. And I just want to end with saying, like, the UK without Horizon as well, and without being able to attract PhD students, it's just going to face more and more problems. We've discussed this in the past, that we are hemorrhaging talent here, and the ones that have kind of a dual citizenship, they're looking at leaving the UK, and some of them have left. And the more kind of EU nations and the more the Americans can see that talent can be poached from the UK, the more they're going to take it. Because honestly, if you're a researcher and research is your life, doing whatever field it is, if that's your life, then you're going to go to where you can actually continue doing your research. It doesn't matter, if it's a different country, if you have to cross continents. If there's an offer there, they'll probably take it. We have seen that in the past. But yeah, like I said, this lot are an abomination, and I'm going to leave it there. So let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, comment, share, subscribe, support the channel on Patreon if you can, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.